Captain Minho stood at the viewport of the UNS Horizon and watched the massive station hanging in space. The structure was beautiful in a way that made him uncomfortable. It was too perfect, too symmetrical, like something from a dream rather than reality. Thousands of alien ships surrounded it, each one different from the next. Some looked like crystals, others like organic sea creatures, and a few resembled nothing he could compare to anything on Earth. 3 months ago, humanity had finally cracked faster-than-light travel. 3 months ago, they had sent out their first message to the stars expecting silence or perhaps a response in a few years. Instead, the Galactic Council had answered within hours. They had been watching Earth for centuries, they said. They had been waiting for humanity to join the greater community of intelligent life. Now Minho understood that join had been the wrong word to use. Ambassador Hana stepped up beside him. She was shorter than him by a head, but she carried herself with the kind of confidence that made people listen when she spoke. "Nervous?" she asked. "Should I be?" "Probably." She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "They have been very specific about this meeting. Very formal. That usually means bad news in my experience." Behind them, Dr. Suji was reviewing data on her tablet for the 100th time. She was their expert on alien psychology, though that expertise was only 3 months old. "Their communication patterns have shifted," she said without looking up. "More rigid, more authoritative. Something has changed." The shuttle bay doors opened with a hiss. A council representative floated inside, a being that looked like living glass arranged in a vaguely humanoid shape. Light refracted through its body in rainbow patterns. When it spoke, the words came from a device floating nearby rather than from the creature itself. "The High Tribunal will see you now. Follow designated path. Do not deviate. Do not touch anything. Do not speak until given permission." Minho exchanged glances with Hana. On Earth, diplomacy involved a lot more flexibility, but they followed the glowing path that appeared on the floor, leading them deeper into the station. The chamber they entered was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that clouds formed near the top. Hundreds of beings sat in tiered rows representing species from across the galaxy. At the center, on a raised platform, sat 7 figures that seemed to glow with their own light. The High Tribunal, the central figure, rose. It was the same crystalline species as their guide, but larger, older, with light that pulsed in complex patterns. When it spoke, the translator rendered its words in flat, emotionless tones. Species designation human, planet designation Earth. You have been summoned to receive judgment. Judgment? Hana stepped forward. We came here for diplomatic talks, for mutual understanding and cooperation. Silence. You will speak when given permission. The being's light flickered red. The Galactic Council has reviewed all available data regarding your species. We have analyzed your history, your culture, your entertainment, and your social structures. The conclusion is unanimous and final. A holographic display materialized in the air above them. Images began to play. Footage from Earth's history, wars, battles, explosions. Then clips from movies showing violence and destruction. Sports where humans crashed into each other at high speeds. Boxing matches. Mixed martial arts. Video games full of combat and conflict. Humanity is classified as a Class 9 existential threat, the tribunal speaker continued. The highest danger rating in council records. No species has ever rated above Class 6. You are catastrophically dangerous to yourself and to all civilized life. Minho felt his jaw tighten. He looked at the images playing above them and saw them through alien eyes. Yes, humanity had fought wars. Yes, their entertainment often featured conflict. But there was so much more to humans than that. Therefore, the speaker said, humanity is hereby ordered to accept a protection mandate. You will surrender all military vessels and weapons. You will submit to council authority. You will accept garrison forces on every major population center. You have been deemed incapable of responsible self-governance. The chamber fell silent. 800 alien species watched the human delegation, waiting for the inevitable submission. This was how it always went. The council had existed for 50,000 years. No one said no to the council. Ambassador Hana stared at the tribunal for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed. It started as a small chuckle, almost polite. Then it grew louder. Hana put her hand over her mouth, trying to control it, but she could not. The laughter burst out of her in waves. Captain Minho felt it too. the absurdity of it all. These beings who had watched humanity's darkest moments but understood nothing, who saw violence and missed all the context, all the growth, all the progress. He started laughing too. Dr. Suji joined in, then the rest of the human delegation. Within seconds, all 20 humans in the chamber were laughing. Some were bent over, holding their sides. Others had tears streaming down their faces. The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens stood from their seats, lights flashing, strange sounds emerging from translator devices. The tribunal speaker's light turned bright red. This is not appropriate behavior. You will cease immediately. Ambassador Hana straightened up, wiping her eyes. Her voice was clear and steady despite the smile still on her face. You want us to surrender everything because you watched our movies and got scared? This is not a negotiation. You are absolutely right, Hana said. It is not a negotiation. Because we refused. The chamber went dead silent. You refuse? The tribunal speaker seemed genuinely confused. We refuse your protection mandate. We refuse your garrison. We refuse your authority. Hana crossed her arms. Earth is a sovereign world. We govern ourselves. If you don't like that, you are welcome to try to change it. The tribunal members conferred among themselves, lights pulsing in rapid patterns. Finally, the speaker turned back to the humans. This is unprecedented. No species has ever refused council judgment. You do not understand the forces you are defying. The council has maintained galactic peace for 50 millennia. We have resources beyond your comprehension. We have weapons that could crack your planet like an egg. Captain Minho stepped forward to stand beside Hana. Then you better bring a lot of them, because humanity does not kneel. The tribunal speaker's light flared brighter than ever. You have 30 Earth days to comply with the protection mandate. If you refuse, we will implement appropriate measures to ensure galactic security. This audience is concluded. The glowing path appeared again, leading back to the shuttle bay. The human delegation walked it in silence, but Minho noticed something. Dr. Suji was smiling. You look pleased, he said quietly. I am, she replied. I just learned something very important about the council. What is that? They have never been told no before. They have no idea how to handle it. Her smile widened. And that gives us an advantage. As their shuttle detached from the station and began the long journey back to Earth, Minho looked at the massive structure shrinking behind them. Somewhere in that perfect, beautiful station, the council was discussing what to do about humanity. They were probably shocked, angry, and confused. Good, Minho thought. Let them be confused. Let them wonder what humanity would do next. Because in 30 days they were going to find out exactly what happened when you threatened Earth. The laughter had been real. But it had not been mockery. It had been the sound of a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and countless disasters. The sound of a species that looked at impossible odds and said, "Watch us anyway." 30 days would not be nearly enough time for the council to understand what was coming. But it would be plenty of time for humanity to prepare for war. General Yunji stood in the war room deep beneath Geneva, staring at the holographic display of Earth's solar system. Red markers indicated where the council fleet would likely enter. Blue markers showed where Earth's defenses were positioned. There were far too many red markers and far too few blue ones. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and outexperienced, Admiral Deho said from across the table. The old man had fought in 3 different wars during his career. He knew what bad odds looked like. Their ships have better shields, better weapons, and better engines. Any conventional engagement will be a massacre. Then we do not fight conventionally, Yunji replied. She zoomed the display in on the asteroid belt. We fight smart. We fight dirty if we have to. We use every advantage we have. What advantages? Deho asked. They have been exploring space for thousands of years. We have been doing it for 3 months. They have been at peace for 50,000 years, Dr. Suji said from her seat at the table. She had been quiet for most of the meeting, reviewing data on her tablet. Now she looked up with bright eyes. That is their weakness, Yunji nodded. Explain. I have been studying every interaction we have had with the council, Suji said. Every conversation, every protocol, every diplomatic exchange. They are rigid, predictable. They have rules for everything and they never deviate from those rules. Do you know why? Because the rules work, said Tejan. The intelligence officer had been compiling information about council military operations for weeks. They have won every conflict for thousands of years using the same tactics. Exactly, Suji said. They have no reason to innovate, no reason to think creatively. They apply overwhelming force in predetermined patterns and everyone surrenders, every single time. For 50,000 years, Yunji felt a smile tugging at her lips. But we are not going to surrender. Which means they will have to actually fight us, Suji continued. And I do not think they remember how to fight an opponent that fights back. They have forgotten how to adapt. Admiral Deho leaned forward, suddenly interested. You are saying they are predictable? Completely. Look at this. Suji pulled up tactical data from Council peacekeeping operations over the past 1,000 years. Ship formations appeared on the screen. Same formation every time. Same approach vectors. Same communication protocols. They broadcast surrender demands, wait for compliance, and move in to establish control. It has not changed in centuries. Then we do not let them establish control, Yunji said. We hit them before they are ready. We hit them where they do not expect it. We break their formations and force them to adapt on the fly. Scientist Jiho entered the room carrying a data chip. He looked exhausted but excited. I have good news and bad news, he said. Good news first, Deho said. I cracked their shield technology. Took me 3 weeks and about 1,000 simulations, but I understand how it works now. Jiho plugged the chip into the main display. Their shields operate on a rotating frequency pattern. Very sophisticated, very effective against energy weapons, but, Hyunji prompted. But it is the same frequency pattern across their entire fleet. Same rotation, same timing. They use standardization for efficiency. Jiho grinned. If we can match the frequency, we can shoot right through their shields. That is good news, Deho said. What is the bad news? We only have 28 days left to retrofit our entire fleet with the new weapon systems. Yunji did some quick calculations in her head. It was barely possible, maybe. Get started. I will authorize any resources you need. Over the next week, Earth transformed. Every nation contributed ships, weapons, and personnel. Old rivalries were set aside. Political differences became irrelevant. Humanity faced a common enemy, and for the first time in history, they stood completely united. Captain Minho oversaw the conversion of civilian vessels into warships. Cargo haulers received missile pods. Mining ships got particle beam weapons. Even tourist shuttles were retrofitted with explosive charges. It was desperate and improvised, but it might work. This is insane, his first officer said, watching workers weld weapons onto a passenger liner. Half these ships will fall apart if they fire their own weapons. Then they fire them once and retreat, Minho replied. We are not trying to win a fair fight. We are trying to survive an unfair one. In a facility on the moon, workers assembled kinetic missiles using nothing but metal rods and small guidance systems. No explosives needed. At the speeds they would be traveling, simple mass would be enough to punch through any armor. On Mars, engineers programmed thousands of small drones with one simple instruction. Find an enemy ship and crash into it. Each drone cost almost nothing to build. Each council ship cost billions. Admiral Deho watched the preparations with grim satisfaction. We are building an asymmetric force, he said to Yunji during one of their daily briefings. Nothing matches, nothing is standardized, and most of it is held together with hope and welding. Perfect, Yunji said. The council has never faced anything like this. They are expecting a military. We are giving them chaos. Tajin's intelligence division uncovered more useful information. Council rules of engagement prohibited the destruction of cities unless absolutely necessary. They had to preserve infrastructure for the protection mandate. They could not simply blow up Earth from orbit. They have to come down to our level, Taejun explained. They have to fight in space around our planet where we can reach them. They have handicapped themselves with their own rules. Will they follow those rules? Deho asked. They always have, Suji said. For 50,000 years. They will not break them now. Their entire civilization is built on following rules. Then we break the rules for them, Yunji said. The strategy came together piece by piece. Operation Typhoon, they called it. The council would arrive expecting a surrender. Instead, they would face an opponent that refused to play by any rules they understood. With 10 days left, Ambassador Hana sent a message to the council. It was brief and simple. Earth remains free. Do not come here. The council did not respond. With 5 days left, radar systems detected movement at the edge of the solar system. The council fleet had arrived early. 200 ships, all in perfect formation, all moving toward Earth at steady, predictable speeds. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the UNS Horizon. now fitted with every weapon Jiho's team could mount. Around him, a fleet of converted civilian ships waited in the asteroid belt hidden among the rocks. On the moon, missile batteries powered up. On Mars, drone swarms activated. Around Earth itself, every defensive satellite and orbital platform locked onto the approaching targets. They are broadcasting the surrender demand, his communications officer reported. Same as before. Submit to the protection mandate. 30 minutes to comply. Do not respond, Minho said. Let them wonder. General Yunji watched from Earth Command as the enemy fleet drew closer. They moved in a beautiful symmetrical formation. Perfect spacing. Perfect coordination. Perfect predictability. All units, she said into the fleet-wide channel. Wait for my signal. Remember, hit fast, hit hard, and do not let them regroup. Make them pay for every meter they advance. The 30-minute deadline passed in silence. The Council fleet continued forward, probably confused by the lack of response. They had never faced this before. Uncertainty. All units, Yunji said, her voice calm. This is it. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. She took a breath and gave the order that would change everything. Fire. The first missiles, launched from the moon at nearly the same moment that the asteroid-based mass drivers fired. Chunks of metal and rock accelerated to incredible speeds, crossing the distance to the Council fleet in seconds. The aliens had perhaps 3 seconds of warning before the kinetic rounds slammed into their formations. Fleet Commander Quindar watched his tactical display light up with impact warnings. Shields held on most ships, but the sheer force of the impacts scattered the perfect formation. Ships drifted out of position. 2 smaller vessels collided with each other, trying to maneuver away from the bombardment. What is this? Quindar demanded. Kinetic weapons? They are using rocks? Yes, Commander, his tactical officer replied. Mass driver impacts from multiple sources. The moon, several asteroids, and some kind of orbital platforms. Return fire. Restore formation. But before the Council ships could respond, the second wave hit. Missiles streaked in from Earth itself, thousands of them. Not sophisticated weapons, just simple rockets with guidance systems and explosive warheads. The Council point defense systems engaged, destroying most of them, but not all. Dozens got through, slamming into ships already weakened by kinetic strikes. Then the human ships appeared. Captain Minho brought the UNS Horizon out from behind a large asteroid at full speed. Behind him, 100 converted civilian vessels followed. They did not look like a proper military fleet. They looked like exactly what they were: cargo ships, mining vessels, and passenger liners with weapons bolted onto their hulls. All ships open fire, Minho ordered. The improvised fleet lit up space with weapons fire. Particle beams, missiles, lasers, and even repurposed mining charges flew toward the Council formation. Most shots bounced off shields or missed entirely, but a few, using Jiho's frequency-matching technology, punched straight through. A Council cruiser lost power as a beam carved through its engine section. Another ship spun wildly as its maneuvering thrusters were destroyed. The pristine, orderly fleet descended into chaos. They are shooting through our shields, someone shouted on Quindar's bridge. How is that possible? I do not know. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Return fire. But the Council crews had never trained for this kind of combat. They knew how to maintain formation, how to approach a target, how to broadcast demands. They did not know how to fight an enemy that refused to hold still and fight properly. Human ships darted between asteroids using the rocks as cover. They fired from unexpected angles. They coordinated attacks without any apparent central command, each captain making independent decisions. It was chaos. It was messy. It was completely unpredictable, and it was working. Admiral Deho watched the battle unfold from his flagship near Earth. The converted civilian vessels were taking heavy casualties, but they were also dealing unexpected damage. More importantly, they were disrupting the Council formation beyond recovery. Launch drone swarms, he ordered. From Mars and from hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, thousands of small drones activated. Each one was barely larger than a person, equipped with a simple AI and an explosive charge. They swarmed toward the Council fleet like angry insects. Quindar's tactical officer reported the new threat with barely controlled panic. Commander, we have multiple small craft approaching, thousands of them. They are not attempting to evade our fire. They are suicide drones, Quindar realized with horror. They are throwing away their machines on purpose. The Council Point defense systems engaged, destroying hundreds of drones. But there were too many. They struck Council ships by the dozen, small explosions blooming across hulls. Individually, each explosion did minimal damage, but hundreds of them together weakened shields, destroyed sensors, and damaged weapons systems. "This is insane," Quindar shouted. "What kind of species fights like this?" On Earth, Dr. Suji listened to the intercepted Council communications and smiled. "A desperate one," she said to General Yunji. "They think we are fighting desperately because we have no choice. They do not understand that we are fighting smart." "Launch Phase 3, Yunji ordered. Hidden among the asteroids, 3 converted cargo ships activated their engines. They did not have weapons. They did not need them. Each ship was loaded with thousands of tons of rock and metal, accelerated to maximum speed, aimed directly at Council capital ships. The ships had no crews. They were remotely piloted, guided by simple AI. Their only mission was to ram enemy vessels at maximum velocity. The first cargo ship struck a Council battlecruiser amidships. The impact was catastrophic. Shields meant to deflect energy weapons provided no protection against simple kinetic force. The battlecruiser broke in half, venting atmosphere and debris. The second and third ramming ships hit their targets moments later. 2 more Council vessels crippled or destroyed. Captain Minho saw the impacts and felt sick. War was ugly, even necessary war, but there was no time for reflection. A Council destroyer was targeting his ship with what looked like a very large weapon. "Evasive action," he shouted. The Horizon dove behind an asteroid just as the destroyer fired. The asteroid exploded, filling space with fragments. Minho used the debris as cover, circling around to come at the destroyer from its blind side. "Match their shield frequency and fire everything," Minho ordered. The Horizon's weapons blazed. Beams and missiles struck the destroyer's unprotected rear section. The enemy ship shuddered, lost power, and began drifting. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships used the asteroids like a 3-dimensional maze, striking and retreating, never staying still long enough to be targeted effectively. Council ships trained for open space combat in proper formations could not adapt. Quindar realized he was losing. The impossible was happening. His fleet, superior in every measurable way, was being torn apart by an inferior force using tactics he could barely comprehend. "Request permission to withdraw," he told his communication officer. "Commander, the High Tribunal has not responded to our last 7 requests for guidance. Then request again. Tell them we need authorization to retreat or to use unrestricted firepower." But the responses did not come quickly enough. Every second that passed, more Council ships took damage. The humans had even started broadcasting something on all frequencies. Terrible screeching sounds mixed with images of violence from their entertainment. It was psychological warfare, and it was working. Council crews were becoming frightened, confused, disoriented. General Yunji watched her tactical display and made a decision. "Deploy the mines," she said quietly. Behind the Council fleet, along their most likely retreat paths, thousands of small explosive devices had been placed over the past 20 days. Simple mines, each one barely powerful enough to damage a single ship, but there were so many of them. Quindar finally received authorization to withdraw. "All ships retreat Vector 7. Maximum speed." The Council fleet began to turn, breaking what remained of their formation. They accelerated toward the edge of the solar system, eager to escape this nightmare. Then they hit the minefields. Explosions rippled through the retreating fleet. More ships lost shields, lost engines, lost power. The retreat became a rout. Ships scattered in all directions, abandoning formation entirely, just trying to escape. "Cease fire," Quindar ordered. "Broadcast surrender." The message went out on all channels in every language humans understood. The Council fleet surrendered. They requested terms. They asked for mercy. Captain Minho sat back in his command chair, suddenly exhausted. Around him, his bridge crew was cheering. Throughout the solar system, human ships broadcast victory messages. Earth had won. General Yunji did not cheer. She looked at the casualty reports. 47 human ships destroyed. Thousands dead. The victory had not been cheap, but it had been a victory. The Council's first military defeat in recorded history. The galaxy would never be the same. The Council capital world of Concordia Prime had never experienced anything like this. For 50,000 years, the High Tribunal had governed with absolute certainty. Their word was law. Their judgment was final. No one questioned. No one resisted, until now. Elder Thexara had served on the council for 4,000 years. She had witnessed the rise and fall of entire civilizations. She had seen species bloom and fade, but never in all those millennia had she seen the council lose a military engagement. "This is impossible," Council Speaker Velthun said for the 100th time. The crystalline being's light pulsed red with agitation. A species barely 3 months into space travel defeated a proper fleet. "Our systems must have malfunctioned. The reports must be wrong." "The reports are correct," Thexara said quietly. "I have reviewed the tactical data myself. Humanity fought with creativity and unpredictability. They exploited weaknesses we did not know we had." "Weaknesses?" Another council member, a being of pure energy, flickered angrily. "We have the most advanced military in the galaxy. We have the most advanced military for fighting wars that no one fights anymore," Thexara corrected. Humanity reminded us what actual combat looks like. The debate raged for hours. Hardliners demanded immediate retaliation. "A fleet of 10,000 ships," they said. "Overwhelming force. Show humanity the true power of the council." Moderates urged caution. Perhaps there was a diplomatic solution. Perhaps humanity could be reasoned with now that they had proven their strength. Thexara listened and worried. Both approaches missed the real problem. Humanity had not just defeated a council fleet. They had shattered the illusion that had kept the council in power for 50 millennia. The illusion of invincibility. Far from Concordia Prime, Ambassador Yuna prepared to depart for council space. She was younger than Hana, harder, less interested in polite diplomacy. Earth had selected her for exactly that reason. This was not a time for gentle words. "Remember," Admiral Deho told her before she boarded the diplomatic vessel, "we hold the advantage now, but it will not last. The council has resources we cannot match in a long war. We need to turn this military victory into a political one." "I understand," Yuna said. "They expect us to ask for peace. Instead, I am going to demand changes." Captain Sanghun commanded the fleet that would escort Yuna to Concordia Prime. His 3 ships were humanity's first proper warships, built from the ground up for combat rather than converted from civilian hulls. They were sleek, powerful, and loaded with every lesson learned from the Battle of Terra. As they traveled through council space, something unexpected happened. Smaller species began contacting the human ships. Quietly, secretly, they asked questions about Earth, about how humanity had stood up to the council, about whether the humans would accept allies. Dr. Suji, who traveled with the diplomatic mission, compiled the information. 23 species have made contact, she reported to Yuna. All of them are frustrated with council rule. Some have been forcibly prevented from developing their own militaries. Others have had their technology restricted. Many feel they have no voice in council decisions. The council has been keeping them weak, Yuna said, maintaining order through suppression. And now they see an alternative, Suji said. They see that resistance is possible. On Concordia Prime, Intelligence Officer Tejan had infiltrated the council's communication networks. It was surprisingly easy. The council had never needed good security because no one had ever tried to spy on them before. He sent regular reports back to Earth about the internal debates. The council is fracturing, he reported. 40% of member species have refused to contribute ships to the retaliation fleet. They say the first attack was unjustified and they will not support a second one. General Yunji received the report with satisfaction. Good. The longer they argue, the more time we have to prepare. How many systems have we claimed? 7, her tactical officer replied. All uninhabited, all in strategically valuable positions. And we are building defenses on everyone. Earth's expansion had begun immediately after the battle. Humanity claimed systems, built stations, and established a presence before the Council could react. It was aggressive and provocative, but the Council was too disorganized to stop it. When Ambassador Yuna finally arrived at Concordia Prime, she did not request an audience. She demanded one, and she brought Captain Sanghun's fleet with her. Parking the 3 warships in orbit above the Council capital as a very visible reminder of what humanity could, to the High Tribunal received her in the same chamber where they had delivered humanity's ultimatum months before. But the atmosphere was different now. Less certain, less absolute, Ambassador Yuna, Velthun said. We are pleased you have come. The Council wishes to discuss terms for I am not here to discuss peace, Yuna interrupted. I am here to discuss the future of the Council itself. Shocked silence filled the chamber. The Council attacked Earth without provocation, Yuna continued. You lost. Now you will pay reparations for the damage you caused and the lives you took. Furthermore, humanity demands full membership in this council with veto authority over any decisions that affect us. This is outrageous, one council member shouted. You cannot dictate terms to us. Watch me, Yuna said coldly. You have two choices. Accept our demands and reform the council into something fair and democratic. Or refuse and watch as more species follow our example. Elder Thexara studied the human ambassador carefully. The young woman was not bluffing. She had the confidence of someone who knew she held winning cards. You are offering other species protection, Thexara said. It was not a question. We are offering them freedom, Yuna replied, something the council has denied them for millennia. The debate that followed was fierce. Hardliners called for Yuna's arrest. Moderates urged compromise. But underlying everything was fear. Fear that humanity was right. Fear that the old order was crumbling. 3 council species formally withdrew from the coalition that day. They announced they would seek Earth's protection instead. 5 more species sent secret messages expressing interest. Captain Sanghoon reported the developing situation to Admiral Daiho. The council is trying to assemble the retaliation fleet, but they are having problems. Member species are refusing to cooperate. Some are demanding reforms before they will contribute any ships. Then we keep the pressure on, Daiho replied. Begin military exercises in the systems we claimed. Show them we are not afraid and we are not going anywhere. Dr. Suji made a critical discovery while analyzing council communications. The council does not maintain power through military force, she explained to the diplomatic team. They maintain it through monopoly. They control access to the best technology. They control trade routes. They control information. Break the monopoly and you break the council. Then we break it, Yuna said. We share our technology with every species that asks. We open trade with everyone. We refuse to play by council rules. Over the next weeks, the situation deteriorated further for the council. More species withdrew. The retaliation fleet was delayed repeatedly as member species argued over its necessity. Internal conflicts that had been suppressed for centuries began to resurface. Elder Thexara watched it all with mixed feelings. The old order was dying. Something new would have to take its place. The question was whether that transition would happen peacefully or through more bloodshed. She made a decision. It was time for the council to change or die, and she would be the one to force that change. The political coup came 3 weeks after Yuna's arrival. Elder Thexara rallied the moderate factions and removed the hardline leadership from power. She dissolved the High Tribunal and called for an emergency summit to restructure the entire council. We have been wrong, she announced to the galaxy. For 50,000 years we have confused order with justice, stability with freedom. It is time for something new. It is time to listen to all voices, not just the powerful ones. The message reached Earth to mixed reactions. Some saw it as victory. Others saw it as the beginning of something even more complicated. Can we trust them? Admiral Daiho asked. No, Ambassador Hana said. But we can work with them, and that is a start. The summit took place on a neutral world called Haven's Rest. It was a small planet with no native intelligent life, chosen specifically because no species could claim advantage there. Ships from hundreds of worlds gathered in orbit. Some came to negotiate. Some came to observe. All came because the galaxy was changing and no one knew what would come next. Captain Minho commanded the human security detail. His orders were simple. Protect the diplomats and do not start any fights. But he noticed how other species looked at the human ships now, not with dismissal or contempt, with respect, and sometimes with fear. Strange, is it not? Captain Sanghoon said, joining him at the observation port. 3 months ago we were nobody. Now every species in the galaxy knows our name. Not always for good reasons, Minho replied. Some of these species hate us for breaking their comfortable system, and others love us for the same reason. That is change for you. Inside the summit hall, the negotiations had been going for 3 days. Progress was slow. 50,000 years of tradition did not disappear overnight. But progress was happening. Elder Thexara led the council reformers. She had proposed a complete restructuring of galactic governance. No more high tribunal with absolute power. Instead, A democratic federation where every species had equal representation and every major decision required majority approval. Ambassador Yuna represented Earth's interests. She pushed for strong protections for individual species' rights. No more protection mandates, no more forced disarmament, no more technological restrictions. Every species would have the right to defend itself and develop as it chose. Not everyone agreed. This is chaos. An alien diplomat shouted. He represented one of the old council powers, a species that had benefited greatly from the old system. Without structure, without authority, the galaxy will descend into war. The galaxy was already at war, Yuna replied calmly. You just forced everyone to surrender before fighting. That is not peace. That is oppression. And what you propose is better, letting every species do as they please? Yes, Yuna said. With safeguards. With mutual defense agreements. With cooperation instead of coercion. It is better because it is voluntary. Dr. Suji watched the debates with fascination. She was compiling a comprehensive study of galactic politics for Earth's archives. They are all discovering something humans have known for centuries, she said to Tejan, who sat beside her taking notes. What is that? He asked. Democracy is messy. It is loud, it is frustrating. But it is the only system that actually works long-term. Authoritarian efficiency is an illusion. It only works until someone says no. Outside the hall, smaller meetings took place. Species that had contacted Earth earlier formalized their alliances. 12 worlds formally requested to join Earth's defensive coalition. They would retain independence but gain protection and access to human technology. General Yunji reviewed the agreements carefully. We are taking on a lot of responsibility, she said to Admiral Deho during a video conference. If the Council hardliners attack these species, we would be obligated to defend them. Then we make sure we can, Deho replied. Scientist Jiho's team has been working with alien engineers, sharing technology in both directions. We are learning as much as we are teaching. It was true. Humanity's weapons and tactics were innovative, but alien technology had advantages too. Faster engines, better sensors, energy systems that humans had not imagined. The technology exchange was making both sides stronger, but not everyone was happy about the changes. A block of 20 species refused to join the new federation. They retreated to their own section of space and announced they would have no contact with either Earth or the Reformed Council. They called themselves the Preservation Alliance and claimed they were maintaining true galactic civilization. Let them go, Elder Thexara said when the split became official. We cannot force unity. That was the Council's old mistake. If they wish to isolate themselves, that is their choice. But what if they attack? Asked a nervous alien diplomat from a smaller species. Then the rest of us defend each other, Ambassador Hana said. She had joined Yuna at the summit after arriving from Earth. That is what a real alliance does. The Concordia Accords took 2 more weeks to finalize. The document was long and complex, full of compromises and careful wording. But when it was done, it represented something unprecedented in galactic history. The Galactic Council, as it had existed for 50,000 years, was dissolved. In its place rose the Galactic Federation. Every member species had 1 vote regardless of size or power. A security assembly handled defense matters, with humanity receiving a permanent seat alongside 5 other founding members. Military force could only be used with supermajority approval, and only for defense. Technology sharing became mandatory among members. No more hoarding advanced systems. No more keeping other species weak. Trade would be free and open. Travel would be unrestricted. Most importantly, every species retained sovereignty. No protection mandates. No forced garrison. No species could be compelled to do anything against its will. It was not perfect. There were loopholes and problems that would need to be addressed. But it was better. It was fair. It was voluntary. On the day of the signing ceremony, representatives from 314 species gathered. The Preservation Alliance remained absent, as expected. But more than enough species supported the new system for it to work. Captain Minho stood at attention as Ambassador Hana signed on behalf of Earth. He thought about how far humanity had come. 3 months ago, they were newcomers being ordered to surrender. Now they were helping build a new galactic order. After the ceremony, there was a celebration. Different species mingled, trying foods and drinks from dozens of worlds. Dr. Suji established the Institute for Xenological Understanding. dedicated to preventing the kinds of misunderstandings that had nearly led to Earth's subjugation. Scientist Jiho announced a joint research program with alien scientists to push the boundaries of faster-than-light travel. "We can learn so much from each other," he said excitedly. This is what first contact should have been all along. 3 years later, Earth celebrated the anniversary of the Battle of Terra with a new holiday, Liberation Day. Not just for humanity's liberation, but for all the species that had found freedom when the old council fell. Captain Minho, now Admiral Minho, spoke at the ceremony. "We did not set out to change the galaxy," he said. "We just refused to accept injustice. We refused to surrender our freedom, and because we stood firm, hundreds of other species found the courage to stand with us." Ambassador Hana retired that year, satisfied that her work was done. Ambassador Yuna took over as Earth's chief representative to the Federation. The transition was smooth. Earth's place in galactic politics was secure, but tensions remained. The Preservation Alliance launched occasional raids on Federation shipping. Old grievances between species sometimes flared into conflict. The Security Assembly had to intervene several times to prevent wars. "It is not perfect," Elder Thexara said during one Security Assembly meeting. She had become one of humanity's strongest allies, working closely with Earth on dozens of initiatives. "But it is better than what we had. At least now we solve problems together instead of having solutions imposed on us." General Yunji, attending as Earth's military representative, nodded. "Change is never easy, but it is necessary. The old council lasted 50,000 years, but it was stagnant. This federation might be messy, but it is alive. It is growing." Dr. Suji's final report on galactic politics became required reading for every species joining the Federation. In it, she wrote, "Humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy was not military strength or technology. It was the simple willingness to laugh at tyranny, to say no when everyone else said yes, to choose freedom over safety. That laughter in the council chamber 3 years ago was not mockery. It was the sound of a species that refused to be broken, and that sound echoed across the galaxy." On Earth, in Geneva's war room where Operation Typhoon had been planned, a plaque was installed. It read simply, "They demanded our surrender. We gave them change instead." Captain Sang-hoon, commanding Earth's expanding fleet, often looked at the stars and thought about the future. Humanity had proven itself in battle. Now came the harder challenge, proving themselves in peace. Building relationships with alien species, learning to cooperate across vast differences, creating something that would last not just 50,000 years but longer. It would not be easy. But then, humanity had never chosen the easy path. The galaxy had laughed when Earth arrived, barely able to leave their own solar system. Then the galaxy had feared when Earth refused to kneel. Now the galaxy was learning that real strength came not from forcing compliance but from earning respect, not from maintaining rigid order, but from embracing dynamic growth. And it had all started with laughter. With humanity's refusal to accept that might made right, with the simple truth that no species, no matter how powerful, had the right to demand another's freedom. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity would make sure of that.